Hey Jacob, thank you for making time from your busy schedule and joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to spending the next hour with you and your audience. Hopefully, from that, we get to know each other a little bit better. And if I can bring any insight or hopefully help anybody else out there, that's kind of the goal here. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Awesome. My pleasure, sir. For context, these conversations would be part of our series where we explore how IT services leaders are navigating today's challenges. Every day throws a unique one, so that's what we're here to talk about. So, Jacob, if you don't mind, would you mind just introducing yourself and what your organization does?
Sure, absolutely. So my company is RZR Solutions. I'm the CEO, founder, and owner, and we've been in business with a true business, if you will, for about 5 years. But to start a little backstory there, I've been in the technology world for going on almost 30 years. When I was I'm originally from Arkansas, and when I left and graduated, I did not want to stay in Arkansas. Kind of putted around a little bit for about a year, trying to figure out this and that. Just not a lot there at that time, and so I decided to join the military. So I went to the Navy and ended up being an engineer in the Navy, and did my time there. And I ended up landing in Jacksonville, Florida, and went to school there. That's where I met my wife, and actually all three of my children were born there. Of course, we're in North Texas now, but that's where we originally started. And a week before I graduated, I got in the tech world. I went for it was a smaller company called PowerTel, but ultimately, with just in about and after about 2 years, we became VoiceStream. But they told us the day we became VoiceStream that within 12 months we'll be T-Mobile. So I've roughly been with T-Mobile. I was with them for 24 years. And was seeing everything. I was a frontline tech back when T1s was a thing. This kind of dates
Mhm.
me. 1.54 megahertz, and data and text was not even a thing. The big thing to have was all about phone. And I remember having the 6190 Nokia phone, and it was probably still working to this day on the 2G GSM system. And that's kind of what I just cut my teeth with. And then over the years, slowly everybody ended up moving to the well-known CDMA. I know we're in 5G now, but I went through the LTE gambit and all that stuff. And so I ended up about 2014. This was 99 when I started. So in
Mhm.
2014, even though I had taken a few internal promotions, moved into management, I moved into switch management, I moved into operations manager, things like that. And then eventually I took a role as a senior manager over a national project management team here in Frisco. It was in Frisco, Texas. We're actually located in McKinney. And I did that for about 9 years. And then in 2023, they did a mass layoff, and I was let go. Now, I will tell you, I thought I was going to be laid off in 22. So I started RZR Solutions as a side hustle, thinking it was coming sooner than later.
Mhm.
And I was only doing residential, and it was just simple fixes. We'd fix like their laptops, their Macs. I might install a few, Wi-Fi systems for inside of homes and residential areas. There was a few commercial, but mostly it was geared around residential. And then I actually made it an extra year. I went from 23 to 22 to 23. And then I was officially laid off in September of 23. So I said, okay, I'm ready to take this on full time. And I made a 180-degree complete change where I no longer did residential. I had a few legacy clients that I would work with periodically, but for the most part, I just full blown commercial, which was pretty hard and still is very difficult to make that transition. And then 24 was a really, really hard year to go into because not only did I get laid off, but my wife, unfortunately, who, by the way, I love my wife we've been married over 25 years, and I love her to the moon and back. We're best friends. We have three beautiful children. We can talk about that a little later. But that year, she had to have surgery on her. She had to get surgery on her ankle, but before that, she also had to get surgery on her arm. So I literally sat down with her and had to basically nurse her for about 3 months because she couldn't do anything. She couldn't eat, she couldn't
Sure.
drive, she couldn't go anything. So that was my focus. So because of that, I didn't get a lot of leads and a lot of things. And I ended up, believe it or not, had a couple clients that were paying me a monthly recurring revenue or MRR. But unfortunately, I had to basically fire them because they wouldn't listen to me. I kept fixing more and things were breaking more. And I kept saying, look, we need to make these changes, do this. And they wouldn't do it. So I could put a hard line in the sand and saying, it's costing me more money doing these
Mhm.
things. But by you doing this, it's actually going to save you money in the long term, but they would never do it. So I ended up kind of walking away from that. And so 24 was really dry, but then 25 hit, and a lot of work. I'm a big believer that whatever you do today, meaning prepare for whatever you're doing, like marketing and sales and shaking hands and meeting people or whatever this is you're growing, that I believe that 90 days it starts to pay off. You start seeing that ROI. And that was exactly what I was doing. I was really, really working hard to kind of get to that point and not seeing any ROI. I ended up closing 7 deals between January and March timeframe. Just really kind of worked out. And I was using nothing but not pretty much all I was doing was cold calling. We can
Wow.
get into that. And I was getting about a 3% return, which is huge. And compared to the industry standard, it just was right place, right time. It ended up working out. So I closed those deals. And then it's been dry for a while. But then I joined in February. I joined a thing called Master Networks. It's a networking group. If you're not familiar with it, it's just if you've never been a part of a networking group at all, you basically go there and you meet people that are entrepreneurs and also business owners, or they're working within the business, depends on what it is, and you get to know them, and you end up learning how to get to do business with them. They refer you, you refer them, you build a relationship, because we love to do business with people we know and trust, right? Especially as
Right.
business
Right.
owners. But here's the crazy thing. So I asked ChatGPT, and I was very leery of doing this. And there's a little bit of backstory, and I don't need to go into great detail about it, but I had joined a couple networking groups before, but I will take full responsibility. Becoming from the corporate world, I didn't know what to do in a networking group. I didn't know you were
Right.
supposed to I thought you just show up and you would start getting referrals. And that's just not how they work. But I had to
Right.
find that out the hard way. So as a part of these other network groups, it was nothing. Well, in every one of these groups, there's always a real estate agent. There's always some kind of financial person of some sort. There's usually a mortgage and an insurance of some sort within that group, health insurance or whatever. And so we ended up starting one in Addison, which was about 45 minutes from where I am,
Hmm.
closer to Dallas. We're kind of a suburb of Dallas.
Right.
And we drove down there. And then the reason is because my wife's a real estate agent, and the guy that started was a mortgage. And my financial
Okay.
advisor, who already had for a couple of years, he's like, yeah, he joined it. So all those people were able to fill those seats, because the way it works is only person who pays for that seat can have that seat. That's just how it is, to keep that
Interesting.
person, so there's no competitiveness or any of that stuff. Well, anyway, he ended up, I'll go back to what he ended up. It's kind of I'll get back to the ChatGPT thing, but so I decided to join. I was like, okay, I'd love to do this with my wife. It's fine. And then I started learning how to network and meet people and start doing them. I'm like, oh, okay. The light bulb started coming on. And the guy who was the president of it, and Master Networks has, from what I understand, I want to say there's like 60 chapters in this area of about 1,000 people, give or take. I think there's 180 chapters across the South, across the country. It's not just in the South. I think there's some in Minnesota and other places. But anyway, I ended up the president ended up stepping down because he ended up taking a corporate job. He didn't have his business anymore. So we tried to make it work. And unfortunately, we're just like, why? We were all driving from this area, North Texas, down to, 45 minutes on a Tuesday morning, fighting traffic and all this other stuff. And we're like, you know what? Why don't we move it? So we ended up moving it to McKinney. And now
Good.
we started for the third time, but it's really starting to grow. Well, here's the crazy thing. So I asked ChatGPT what's the process? What do I need to do in these? So what I do
Hmm.
is I'm what is known as a unicorn. I'm IT services, and I'll explain what that means at some point, I'm sure, in the podcast. But nobody within that I'm sure there's in other chapters in various places, but within the area that I'm at, I pretty much go to Plano, the Colony. I hit Frisco. I hit obviously McKinney and Prosper and all these kind of Allen, all these surrounding areas that I kind of do a lot of business in. There were none of these chapters had IT services. So I'm a unicorn. So I could show up. And
Right.
by the way, anybody can go to any one of these, even if you have the seat, but you just can't sell your business, but you can still meet people,
Sure.
have face to faces, get to know them.
Nice.
But in this case, I could go and say, this is what I do. This is yada, yada. Well, ChatGPT said it's going to take about 9 months to a year. So I rotate about 9 chapters a week, including mine. And so the thing is, they kind of bleed over into each other. So the 2 or 3 people might be in this one, but also hold a seat in another one. And then you get to know people
Sure.
and you have a lot of face to face. And it said about after 9 months to a year, you'll start getting referrals. And that's exactly what happened. It was 9 months this month in November, but at 8.5 months, almost to the day, I got my first referral. And since then I've had like 4 or 5 in a row, just back to back to back, where I had
Beautiful.
nothing. previous to that.
Beautiful.
That's kind of how I was able to. I'm in the process of closing a couple. Hopefully, I'll hear back next week.
Sure.
There's another one that's in the works that I'm in the process with my sales process and things like that. So there's just been some really cool, and I ended up closing two of them from referrals in the last month through the sales process. Just closed one last week. So there is a method to the madness that it works. The problem is I got away from cold calling, which I know cold calling works, but I'm a one man show.
Right.
It's hard to do both when you're doing a lot on one end. So
Right.
I got to figure that balance. But anyway, that's kind of the high level of kind of what the backstory, kind of how I ended up where I'm at. So I don't know if there's some follow up questions there or something else you want to know, but that's kind of where it's at.
No, that's beautiful. Well, firstly, thank you for your service. Much appreciated. I know it, the military teaches you a lot, and I hear this from most veterans that I talk to. And I'm sure you can probably write a book on your experiences while you were in the Navy, and it's a great teacher. Period. The Master Network definitely sounds like a very good avenue for up and coming businesses or business owners to get to know each other and kind of help each other out, by cross selling or upselling or just, spreading the word if at a minimum. So it sounds like a great idea. I might pick your brain a little bit after just, because we're all in the DFW Metro. It could,
Sure.
it definitely helps us. So based on that, I think you kind of answered one and a half question because my next one was tell me a little bit more about your business. So if you were to tell our listeners, what you do, what your business does, what's like your bread and butter, I think that would help.
Absolutely. Known as an MSP or a managed service provider. A lot of people don't know that, so I don't ever really put that out. But since I have a little bit of time to explain it, usually when I say, "Hey, I'm an MSP," they're like, "Well, what's an MSP?" And then I say, "Managed service provider." They go, "What's a managed service provider?" So at the end of the day, I provide IT services to small businesses. Basically, what we do is the way I can explain it, and then I'll explain a little bit more detail is. If you've ever worked for a company and they have an IT department, they have someone that comes in, maybe they have 3 or 4 or 5, or maybe more people that come in and they handle everything from, taking care of your email, taking care of your managed services. So like if you have an issue, maybe you need a new laptop or maybe your laptop's on the frips and you need support of some sort, right?
Sure.
You have, Wi-Fi and networking and firewalls and cybersecurity and all this stuff in place. Cause like if you've ever worked for a company, they didn't give you admin access and you want to install, Apple, player or whatever. I can't even think iTunes or whatever it is. And they're like, no, you can't do it. You don't have, and you have to ask them to do it and get their permission. We're the same thing, except instead of a W-2, we're a 1099. So we go to a small business and my demographic is roughly 5 to 50 seats or employees. I just call them seats because
Yep.
that's just the
Terminology. That's our
terminology
terminology.
that I use when I'm, counting who it is. And so it's about 5 to 50 is kind of where we're at, that sweet spot. Until I get to the point where I grow a little bit, then I'll shoot for a little higher. But for now, that's really where I'm at. I manage about I think around 70 or 80 endpoints. Give or take. Some of them are mine, so there's probably a little bit less there. And what we do is that we go in and we put we manage their Office 365 and or Google Workspace. We provide that, and we put protection on that. And so we set up the permissions within Microsoft or within Google to set it up in a way that finds spam and phishing emails and things of all that nature. And it hits that first. And then after it leaves that and it does all those checks, then it goes into our software and it does the same thing, but it's a little bit more extensive. It'll hold the emails. It'll see what's being sent, what's not being sent. And then if it says everything's okay, because what it does is really cool, the software that we use, it will learn from the end user using AI, finding out their different clients. You put them in monitor mode. When you do it for about a week, and it learns kind of every single person within that organization, who their clients are, who they're sending emails, what they're receiving, what is good, what is bad. And then once it does that, then it decides that, okay, we're good. And then it sends it on to the end user. And then eventually we go to blocking mode because we also put what is known as an EDR, MDR, which we have a full-blown SOC that we put on there, which stands for, I'm drawing a blank here, Security Operating Center. So our team, even though I'm a one-man show, but I have a team of people that I pay through their a 1099 for me as well. And they watch the entire everything that comes in and out, whatever. We do the same thing. We monitor and we learn that. And then we eventually put it in blocking mode and keep things out and things like that. And so we also use that as Office 365 and Google as well. So there's a double protection. And then finally, of course, we put a very high industry level antivirus on there that does the same thing, and it looks for ransomware. It looks for any type of like, malware, viruses, and all that stuff. It keeps it safe. And then, of course, we offer data backups, and we do it both on site. We do what is known as a 1, 2, 3 backup, which is pretty much the industry standard. You have one on your local drive,
Uh-huh.
copying your data. Then you have usually an external or what is known as a BDR sitting somewhere within the vicinity that you back up your data to, and then we send it to the cloud. So, and the reason
Right.
we do that is, God forbid your machine breaks,
Sure.
something dies, something happens. Well, then
Yep.
you still have your data. And then if God forbid a tornado or some kind of disaster comes in, well, you still have it in the cloud. And so it's a good
Right.
way to keep that in there. And it's pretty much the industry standard. And we highly recommend that. We offer two-factor authentication. We make sure that we offer password vaults. What a password vault is nothing worse. This is a lesson for everyone, please. And I'd like to get in this a little bit more on a couple tips and tricks of this. Stop using your same username and password. What happens is this: when you go and you all of a sudden go to shoes.com and you buy a pair of shoes and you use the same username and password that you used at your bank account. Well, guess what? When boxshoes.com, when they get compromised, now they have that information, and these bad guys, these bad actors create bots, and they go out and they start hitting all these accounts automatically. When they get in, and it's really, really hard to get them out. It's a long, drawn process. So just be smart about it. So I'd love to share, if we have time, to a little trick that I would recommend. But we provide what is known as a password vault. One master password, and then you store all your passwords in there. All my passwords are 25 upper numerical,
Yep.
lowercase symbols that I have no idea what they are. And it looks for if it's been on the dark web. It looks for if it's been compromised. It does all these
Yeah.
things to see if this going on, and it notifies you through multiple ways. But one way is through the password vault, and then you can easily just go and reset the password and set it. And if you're worried about two-factor authentication, you can modify that as well, and we can do all that for you. We also do network hardening. Obviously, my background is in networking because I was at T-Mobile for so long, so I'm really good at building firewalls, VLANs, setting up Wi-Fi, making sure that's secure, and everything else in between. We also do DNS filtering. So if you want to keep your people off of, adult sites, you want to keep your people off of gambling sites, you want to VPNs and Tor sites and all this stuff, we can even block Facebook and Netflix or any of that other stuff that you don't want people doing locally. And then of course, the biggest thing that we do more than anything, once we're set up, is we just do managed services. And this is a big thing. So we put our remote management software on all of our devices. And if they have an issue of whatever that looks like, they can just send us a ticket, call us, email us, whatever it is. And then we can remote in. And most of the stuff, 90% of what we do, we can fix remote. We handle servers.
Uh-huh.
We do Linux. We take care of Macs, we take care of Windows, and we also we manage devices as well. So if you have an iPad or an Android or an iPhone or an Android or whatever, we also manage those as well. And we be all encompassed. So we are literally a one-stop shop from an IT standpoint, and we can do part of it, we can do some of it, or we can do all of it. It just depends on what your needs are. And we can fix it right there on the spot. And we even do, believe it or not, web design. I don't push that as much because I don't have a dedicated web team. I do it myself, but I've been called many times because the site's been hacked, and we
Uh-huh.
go in and we can do hosting and everything, and we go in and we can clean up the site, get them safe, and put it on there on a regular basis. And so we do the whole gambit, and we do a little bit of development work, things like that. But again, that's just kind of more on the side, and we're
Sure.
extremely embedded. And this is one thing I want to share is I've built an AI tool that's about 60% there, that's really going to help ultimately make it in a way. I don't really give too much away until it's ready because, everybody's trying to build their AI tools. That's really going to help us internally to have multiple like employees without having employees. And it's really going to end up being, at the end of the day, it's going to end up being an assistant to someone like me. And eventually, if I get it to where I want it to be, I'm going to probably offer it as a service to other small businesses. So I know that was a lot to probably unpack there, but that's really everything that we do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so far we've had, great returns, and very happy with the way things have turned out. Now, I will say this: being a business owner has been the most difficult, hard, frustrating, but rewarding. I wouldn't change it 1 second. I wish I'd have done it 10 years ago, but it is a very difficult thing to go. They don't tell you that you're up at 2 a.m. working. They don't tell you that
Right.
you're
Yep.
doing all these things and you're losing sleep and you're trying to figure out how to, fix these issues, because you are the one that has to do it.
Yeah.
So even though the IT side's great, I can do that in my sleep because I've been doing it for so long. On the other end, all the business stuff comes with it,
Yep.
and that's a lot of work, and you just got to figure out which hat you need to wear in the moment. And so it's a very diversified skill set that you kind of have to learn trial by fire.
Yeah. And I think things are getting a little easier to manage with how much AI is getting into managing some of the repeatable admin type of tasks. So definitely conversation for a different day, but there's so much to unpack there as well. And yeah, you weren't kidding when you said that you're a one man show and you've got all these hats in the air. Which one are you wearing today or in the next hour? It might be different, right? No, so that's great background on what you guys do. Being an MSP for the SMB, small and medium business market, what are your current challenges that you see day to day, month on month, given the people that you serve and the the company sizes that you serve?
So far, once they're a client and we've onboarded them and we're ready to go, we really don't have a lot of ongoing issues. Now, don't get me wrong. I've had a few issues that have popped up that I've had to deal with on the cybersecurity stuff, but it's usually because of what we have in place. It solves it. It's we isolate the issue, solve the issue, know it immediately because I have my alerts on it. I have my eyes on it, and then like I said, I have a SOC. So it pretty much at that point, unless it's something completely outlandish. But I mean, it's just day to day stuff. People need a password reset or they need this or that. So that's really once I have them onboarded, it's pretty just day to day kind of stuff. The
That's like
issues
your
that
ticketing system. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
exactly right. We use our ticketing system and we just manage it. And it's never to the point where it's been super overwhelming. There's been a few days that's been a little hairy, but because you're trying to juggle and do some things. But for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Where I would say the hardest thing for me is it starts with this. Because I'm in the small to medium sized business space, the SMB, I can't just go knock on someone's door and say, "Hello, I'm Jacob with RZR Solutions. Let me have all your data. Let me look at your HR. Let me see your financials." Basically, you're asking them
Sure.
that you want to look. They don't know who I am.
Right.
You can canvas, and I do that. I do cold calling, and I do meet people or whatever. What
Yeah.
I have found is that's the first struggle that I have to get through. Now, how do you get through the door? How do you do that? Probably 1,000 different ways to do it. I haven't really found the niche there. Working on it. But what I have learned is, and it's kind of one of those things where light bulbs are on everywhere, right? You kind of like go
Hmm.
a little bit of piece over here and you kind of do it. And I've started reading this book, and I would highly recommend it for any business owner. I don't care if you've been in it for 15 years or 5 years or 3 months. And it's called a book called Traction, and it's by a guy named Gino Wickman. And it is a really, really good book. It's called an EOS inside there. It's called the Entrepreneur Operating System. And I'm in the process of working it and things like that. Now, let me be clear. I've read a lot of leadership books. I've read a lot of these books that over the years. We all have probably in some way, shape, or form. Let's be honest, they kind of all say the same thing. So I'm just telling you from my standpoint, this is just what seems to be working for me, but it can work for any industry. But I'm also not naive thinking that this is the one all book forever. There's always issues with some of the books versus the other books. I get it, but this is just one that I'm really embedded and tied to that you can have all the tools in the world, but until you actually sit down and pull up your bootstraps, roll up your sleeves and actually go to work on it, it doesn't matter. You can have all the tools that you want. And by saying that, and also with master networks, and because I'll just step back a little bit, I'm pretty introverted, right? I'm a typical IT guy. I'm kind of an introvert extrovert. Like I can go in front of people and I can present in front of people and I can do this and shake hands. And I don't have a problem with that. But then I'm so exhausted at the end of the day from that, that in order for me to and rejuvenate, I have to like throw on my hoodie and turn off the lights and write code for an hour or something like that. I mean, I just have to be by
Sure.
myself and do something to do that. And so
To
that's a consistent,
recharge.
yes. Where my wife, on the other hand, she's a party waiting to happen. Like she's out front, and she's selling everything. So she sells everything. And then I got to figure out how to make it work in the back end. It's a big joke that we have running in the house. But so when I say that I really struggle in that area, I don't struggle because I'm scared to do it. I'm struggles because I don't know how to do it. And that's because I was in the corporate world for so long that
Yeah.
my customers were internal. And so I'm
Sure.
really having to come out and learn from that. So books like, Traction and being in these networks group is really stretching me on what I'm normally used to do. Even in the military, same type of thing. And so it's a good lesson to flex those muscles. And it's just like anything else. You just work at it and work at it and work at it. And eventually it starts to make sense. And that's kind of what's starting to happen to me now. I'm putting it all together. I got a long way to go. And by no means am I going to stand still. I'm just going to try to improve every time. But that is my biggest struggle more than anything is I can call people all day. Nobody loves cold calling, but I've done it.
Right.
I can go shake hands all day or whatever, but if they don't trust you, it doesn't matter. And here's the other thing I'll say about the master network thing or any networking group. Most of those groups are small, are someone that I probably wouldn't service, right? They're probably 1, 2, 3-man shop or woman shop, however you want to look at it. But the problem what they have is I look at it as I'm 6 degrees of separation.
Uh-huh.
Those obviously, if they're seeing this, I don't know if you're going to do a video for this, but if there is, I have a beard, and it's kind of become my brand. And so what's happened over the years is what has happened is that as I'm meeting these, or not over the years, but over through Master Networks, I'm meeting these people, and I'm starting to do it. Well, they have clients and then all of a sudden, they're like, they have technology issues. They have email issues. They don't like their IT company. They don't do, and now that I've become a household name, they go, oh, there's a guy, he's got a beard. It's Razor. He was in that net. Let me reach out to so-and-so. I've got somebody because everybody likes to have a guy, right? Everybody likes
Right.
to refer someone. And hopefully I've built trust with those people. And that's, I think, what's starting to happen. And that's where I think I'm going to start seeing a lot more of trying to get those leads and opportunities, and then it's mine to lose, right? I've got my
Right.
foot in the door and then I go
Right.
through my sales process and then the sales process goes through. And then in the end, hopefully I close them. But what I struggle with too is, again, I'm not a real good at sales. I'm getting better. I'm working at it. I'm not terrible, but I'm not selling a product. I'm selling me. I'm not
Right.
selling a service. I'm
Right.
selling Razor Solutions, and Razor Solutions is Jacob. That's the whole thing that I'm selling because, I can talk cybersecurity and backups and they just look at me like I got a third eye. They don't know what I'm talking about. And it's not that I'm so
Right.
smart or whatever. It's just people usually do not care. Just like I
Right.
wouldn't know if someone, was a banker and he was telling about his bank stuff. I don't know what he's talking about. Right. What I have to figure out and I had to learn that the hard way. Like my tagline is when I stand up and I talk to people, and if you've seen my videos is I'm the IT guy you actually want to talk to. And I just kind of make a joke because I try not to geek speak to people. I try to talk to them on their level and use real world examples and things like that.
Yeah. No, that I identify with that a lot because when I tell people I work in technology, there's similar things. Oh, why, I can't remember how to store my passwords. Like very, very common, right? And then they using the same password everywhere. Stuff happens, and big corporations are not immune to that stuff. So if you go to shopping at a big retailer and they have a data leak and you have the same password, Lord help you. But yeah,
It happens probably 90% of the time when I go and I ask who here use the same username password. Almost every hand in the
everybody
in the
does.
audience goes up. It's because of complacency, right? And we like it simple. We don't want to have to actually go outside the box. And the thing is I promise you, if you just take one extra step on the password,
Uh-huh.
it's worth it because you don't want to see what happens on the other end. I've played on both sides of it, and it is a really, really hard, and you're always looking over your shoulder. You feel like someone's in your backyard, someone's in your house. I had one guy, I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
He was in a nervous wreck. He thought he got hacked and he came to my house. He thought they were on his radio. That driving in his car. I didn't argue with him. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna. He goes, yes, they have to be there. It keeps changing channel, all this other stuff, and I didn't want to say, well, that's not how that works, but I'm like, okay, let's get you squared away, and ended up taking care of him. But when, like I said, but it was that paranoia that comes along with it when they get in there and they steal your password, and then you don't know where that password is because you use it everywhere. So now
Yeah.
you're confused and you're trying to do that Rolodex in your head, trying to figure out what website was I at? Do my kids have that password? Do they have my bank account? What
Right.
do they have access to? Is it my financial? No, is that or my retirement account? And it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And then you never do it. And then you're playing defense and you're just trying to figure all this out. And before you know it, something pops up and it may or may not be legitimate the hack, but you're going to question it every time. And that's what I would like to say is that you just fix it. It's really, really simple to do. Yes, it's
Yeah.
an extra step each time you need to get into something, but it's better to take the extra step and curse the two-factor authentication than it is to have to go and figure out why did I
Yep.
lose $5,000 today. So
I swear by the MFA, the multi-factor authentication. It's the best thing since sliced bread, at least from a security standpoint. So let's switch gears for a second and let's put on your business owner hat, right?
Sure.
As a business owner, what metrics are you most focused on improving when it comes to, year on year, month on month, sort of time boxing?
So my biggest thing is I'm looking at my every single expense that I have to. That's probably the number one most important thing. I'm like your typical business owner and or your typical IT when you start out is you bought too many tools. Someone told me from day one and I didn't listen because I know it better and now I wish I'd have listened is just start out slow. Like for example, I have a tool that I bought that I'm under contract till next year. And believe it, I'm not saying anything bad about these tools. Let me be clear. These tools are fantastic, but it is like tools for a company that has 1,000 endpoints. I don't need 1,000 endpoints right now. Eventually, when I get there, yes. And so that was my big thing. And so right now, I'm trying to figure out my overhead costs, right? Even though I'm a one man show, I'm looking at, I need to hire someone at some point. But in order to hire someone, I have to meet this number. But in order to meet this number between my
Yep.
overhead and how much is coming in, there's just, it's not there yet. Eventually, in the next
Right.
couple closings that I do, hopefully these ones that come up, it really kind of widens that gap. And so that's definitely number one. The other thing is I do look at my EBITDA every month. I look at my gross and then I check out my EBITDA and then of course I look at my net and then that's kind of what I'm doing. So those metrics are important. I also look when I am cold calling, I really do look close to how many calls that I made, how many do I get a discovery meeting out of it. The qualification call is first, and then I do and then I follow up, and then hopefully the next step is to get a discovery meeting. If I can get a discovery meeting, then at that point, usually I can at least make it to closing. It doesn't mean I'll close it. It just means at least I can get to that point because they're very
To pitch the deal.
interested. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is, so I measure that very, very closely. Like, for example, I mentioned earlier, like my return on investment a while back ago, I kind of looked at like, what are my top three things? And it was, it was cold calling. I had a roughly 70 calls and I had out of those 70 calls, I got 4 opportunities and I closed 3 of them. And so I was able to make it to the end. Like I said, it was a very high return and it was right place, right time. They're like, oh, we're looking for an IT person, or yeah, absolutely, we're looking for a change and that type of thing. So it ended up working out on multiple occasions. But the problem is like, like when you change focus, then you lose focus on the other one. So I really, really highly recommend that's probably going to be one of the things I do is I've either got to get back probably this month or probably after the holidays to start cold calling again, especially at the beginning of the year, where at least I do 5 to 6 hours a week if I'm able, or hire an assistant and just pay them part time. Cause I had a couple interns working for me just temporarily.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so that's a metric I really look at. And then the other one was SEO. I don't get a lot of turnaround on SEO, but at least I get some traction on things. If I put a video out or if I put some kind of like blog post out or whatever, people do find me. And I do see a lot of stuff coming in. I need to kind of, it's one of those things I've gotten away from. So I probably need to get
Sure.
really focused on because SEO is an ever changing, ever growing, ever never stops constantly. Is you constantly have to look at it. And then the final metric is referrals, right? That's the other major metric that I look at. And so it's looking at my financials, obviously, because we're here to make money and
Right.
expenses and things like that. And the other one is how to get my leads. How am I getting my opportunities and things like that? And that's what I really, really focus in on as a business owner.
How are the referrals? Are you able to get a lot? What percent of your new business comes through referrals today?
Right now, almost 100% at this point. I'd say
Really?
90% if we really want to kind of put just because of master networks and the way it's come about. But like I said, this is fairly new to get this many opportunities in such a short time. It was spread out. Cold call was the way to go at the beginning of 2025. But as I've gone, I had, I closed 3 deals from a cold call. Like I said, I had 4 opportunities and one of them I didn't. And at the very beginning, the cold calls I got, it just ended up working out that way. And then the one in the middle, I think it was about April, May timeframe, I made it all the way to closing and they just decided they had an IT company and they weren't ready for a change or whatever. I don't know if it was cost. They never did really give me the feedback, but that was also a cold call. That's the only way I was really getting consistent opportunities. There were a few referrals here and there, but none of them really panned out. They were real small. They didn't really fit my qualification number that I needed. And so, but that just was part of it. And I think the biggest issue that I have more than anything is trying to get people who want to refer me to understand what I do. And like, when you sometimes say, "Oh, do you do websites?" Like, "Yeah, yeah, I do websites." Now you're a web designer, right? That's what they
Right.
think. Anything web design, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah, we can do that. On one time, I was at it wasn't Master Networks, one of the other marketing meetings that I didn't really know what I was doing at. They asked me what I did and stuff, and I was like, well, I do cybersecurity. They thought I was a security company, like ADT. So it's just one of those things that's really
Right.
hard to convey that.
Yes.
That's one of the issues that I run into. So though, but anyway, that's kind of how I'm getting my referrals at this point. Is really, I'd say most of them, if not all of them, are coming direct, word of mouth from other people who point them my way, and then I can take it from there. So
Yeah. No, that's very insightful. This kind of gets me in the next question, which you partially answered, right? Your ideal customer. We have something that we call the ideal customer profile, and you said that, hey, my sweet spot is 5 to 50 seats. Uh, you see businesses. You manage 70 to 80 endpoints, and do some O365 and Google Workspace stuff. Well, anything to add as far as that goes, as to if I got your ICP or your ideal customer sizing right?
the ideal customer for me would be like 35 employees. Every single one of them have a workstation and or a laptop. They have at least a server, and they use Office 365. And then they want me to manage their network, complete network. They want to make sure that it's secure. We put in firewalls, or we build it out and make it more, whatever. And then even come in and quote them on getting a new ISP to kind of come in. Maybe they want fiber or whatever, and we can come in and do the whole gambit. I would love the perfect client is around that amount, and I cover it from end to end, whatever that looks like. Even if they had Macs in there, it would be perfectly fine. Same software goes on there, but it was just be that place where they need it, and then we're part of it. We take care of their printers and all their peripherals and all that other stuff as well. They let us take over the vendor, all the vendors if they, and even the voice
Vendor
over IP.
management.
Yeah, vendor management and voice over IP. So they have like Ring Central or something along those lines. And the big seller I love, I've built out, obviously being in T-Mobile enterprise level, but really I'm a big fan of Ubiquity, especially for small businesses. It's a
Yep.
unified system. You can set up pretty good firewalls with that, and then we filter it out and everything. But that is my ideal client, that 30 to 35 people that I can come in and I just build out from the ground up, especially if they're starting to get to that point where, which I see on a regular basis. I'll come across a lot of companies, and they're starting to grow, right? They've gotten over the last 2 years, all of a sudden something happened and they start exploding. Maybe they've been in business for 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they started using traction and they started implementing EOS. I don't know, but they start to grow, and then they realize their IT guy was also the person who answers the phone, or the one who does financials. And they're like, we had an issue. So then they
Right.
call me and I come in and I solve their issue, but they've never had an IT company. And that really, that point,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, look, here's what we can do. And they're like, yeah, you're right. We really need this. And they know why, but they just didn't know the direction to go. And I love coming in. My two favorite things that I love about business more than anything else. Number one is I love to solve a problem, but to take it to number two even further is I liked at the end that client at the other side was so thrilled and happy. It just warms my heart to see that client to say, thank you for solving our problem.
Uh-huh.
You're an answer to our prayers. We've been really struggling in this area. Thank you. And that's it. But I will say, when the stuff goes wrong, the IT
Yeah.
is the first one to blame, whether it had anything to do with me or not.
Yep.
So we're the hero or the zero, and that's okay. I'm used
Right.
to it, but
It's
that's
pretty
the truth of it.
binary.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good to know. Yeah, especially with so many baby boomers that are exiting and transitioning their businesses, right? As newer, more Gen Z type of folks step into managing or taking over some of these businesses, I think there could be a sweet spot to be hit, because that's the social media generation, or the device heavy generation that's coming in, where the grandparents aged people are exiting because they're like, we're good, we've served our purpose, and we just want to put our feet up. So I think that could be in that ICP. If not, I mean, they may not be enterprise, but they could be small business and easy enough to have that conversation with for awareness.
I would argue, and I add to that, I'm really big on, everybody. Let me be clear. I think college is fine. College is great. I'm not saying anything negative about college, But to your point, those baby boomers who are electricians or welders, they're plumbers. These are people who have a masonries. These people who have a really good
Trade.
skill set trade that they have honed over the years and maybe built a business or have made a career out of or whatever. They're starting to exit, like you
Uh-huh.
said, they're exiting. And I would tell anybody out there that if you're looking to figure out something to do, my recommendation is go get a skill, become a journeyman electrician or something, because I'm telling you, in the next 10 years, you're going to be turning work away because you're going to be so busy
Yep.
with that skill set because nobody's going to have it anymore because everyone's getting college degrees and they're
Yeah.
getting a business degree and they're getting a marketing degree. And
Right.
again, I'm all for education. I'm just saying those are the type of things to me is going to make a big
Yep.
difference in the future.
And AI can't get hands on the ground wiring and doing your plumbing. So while it can do a lot of things to make us more productive, it can't do things to, run power or run plumbing.
No doubt. And I don't think, even though they try to hold the whole Tesla thing, and I saw this video the other day where this robot, they were saying, oh, I read AI news all the time. Every morning I read AI news. But this one video they had where this robot was going around doing dishes and doing all this other stuff. Come to find out, it was a guy in the other room in a VR controlling it, and he couldn't even really grab anything. So we're a long way
Right.
away
Yeah.
from the actual autonomous world where we think these things are coming. And we can argue this: everyone complains and is worried about these AIs taking everybody's job. Are there
Right.
some jobs out there that AI will take over? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Not going to argue it. But, I'm old enough to know, and I think you are, but in the 90s, they said the same thing when the internet came out. And all it
Right.
did was create millions of jobs. So there's jobs once AI becomes a little bit more streamlined and everything that are going to be out there that we don't even know about yet. They don't even exist. And it's just a matter of time. And so you just have to evolve over time. So AI is not going anywhere. So my recommendation is figure out a way to embrace it. And I would say this too about AI. Again, I know this is a whole nother discussion, but I think it's important to when people start thinking about AI and getting nervous. AI, everybody under the sun is throwing money at AI. These venture capitalists are coming in. I'm talking billions and billions and
Yep.
billions of dollars at these AI. Eventually, that's going to pop. Eventually, it's going to go crazy. And the ones that are left are the actual ones that are going to do it. You're going to have your Facebooks, you're going to have, or Meta, whichever. You're going to have your, Amazons and Googles and Microsoft. They're going to stay there pretty much. But then you're going to have this one, like OpenAI will probably still be around, but you're going to have one startups, these one or two that
Right.
started up that rode the storm and they came out with a very specific product because honestly, not one single person is making money off of AI yet. The caustic right now, I'm not kidding you. You can look this up, but as a few months ago, I haven't looked up in a while, Microsoft was losing $700,000 a day just to
Wow.
run Copilot because they're building this AI data center in Memphis. Elon Musk is, and
Yep.
they're talking like almost, I want to say 4 to 7 gigawatts of power in order to run this. So imagine this for a second. Let's just use North Texas. Let's say that I run 1 meg a month, which is a lot. I run
Sure.
kilowatts, but let's just say 1 meg a month. That's going to
Right.
cost me somewhere between 16 to $1,700. If I have something running 24/7, 16 to 17 up to $2,000 a month. So
Yeah.
imagine you're running 7 gigawatts in a data center running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You're going to be paying hundreds of millions of dollars a month to just for your power. And to me, how's that business model stand? There's no way until you figure out how to make money. So I
Right.
get it. It's important. It's a direction that it's almost like the space race, but it's an AI race now, right? China's
Yeah.
after it, and all these India's after it, and of course America and a few other countries are all after it. But ultimately, when all the dust settles, there's only going to be a few left, plus those one or two that kind of made it through. And so it's not going anywhere. Guess what I'm saying at the end of the day? So we just got to figure out how to embrace it. And it's going to improve our lives in some areas that we don't want it to. And of course, you could argue Big Brother and all this other stuff. Well, I'm sorry, Big Brother's already here. It's just not as prevalent as people think. So,
Future goals. Let's talk about that a little bit. Where would you like to be in 6 to 12 months from now? Whether it's size of your company, revenue, customer base, broadly speaking.
yeah, so we can get to this, but I do have a 10, 5, 3-year plan. But in 6 to 12 months from now, I would like to double my current revenue. I would like to probably have a few people on staff that I can work as, because ultimately my goal is to be a CEO. I don't want to be a frontline button pusher technician. I don't want to be the marketing guy, sales. I want to run it as CEO. And so I'm a long way away from it. I get it. And I'll probably end up hiring in the next 6 to 12 months, hopefully, if everything still goes as it is. But that's where I'd like to be is the first hire will probably be an assistant to help me do both cold calling and also work with me to make sure that I schedule things out correctly and things like that, make sure it keeps me on track. And I will go to things like I will end up still being out in front, going to sales meetings and discovery meetings and things like that. But eventually at 12 months, hopefully maybe I hire, let me just step back a little bit. The reason is because originally I thought I really should hire a salesperson, but I talked to someone, believe it or not, the CEO, I had a face-to-face with the CEO of Master Networks today. I've known, his son plays on my son's football team. And
Nice.
so we kind of crossed paths and I found out who he was and everything. So we had a face to face and I told him, and he's completely changed my mindset on this. I thought sales, sales, sales. And his whole thing is like, you can sell till you're blue in the face. And let's say you have a great salesman and they sell everything. But if you don't have the infrastructure to handle it, he
Uh-huh.
said, so my recommendation is not to hire sales. So I've actually pivoted today listening to what he told me that you should hire an assistant to help you make those calls and do things that are there because you're still going to have to do the selling. You're still going to have to do the technician, but you need someone maybe to help you and guide you on some things that you need help with that can take a little bit off your plate. And then once you have that in place, then maybe I hire a technician. If I get to 150 plus endpoints, I will hire a technician because now I'm just getting beyond the capacity of what I can do. I can handle myself 150, but I can't handle 150 plus run a business. It's just not doable. It's not sustainable. And so that's kind of where I'm at. So I think if I close these next couple deals, I'll be looking to hire an intern, not an intern, an assistant. And it might be an intern, but maybe, work part-time. And then hopefully in 12 months, if I get to that 150 plus endpoint, then it's like, okay, now I'm going to hire a technician plus my assistant. And now we're really starting to jive and I can really focus in on growing the business because that's really where I want to be.
Sure.
I really want to grow to the level of just not being a technician anymore. And that's really the goal to be a CEO.
Beyond an owner operator and more in the direction leadership direction. Do you look at numbers? I mean, I'm sure you know the numbers, but do you look at uh, revenue per endpoint on an MRR ARR basis at all as a metric, or how do you track the endpoint to revenue relationship?
Yeah, so the way I built out my endpoint cost is I know exactly what it costs for every single endpoint as far
Mhm.
as the tools that I put on it.
Okay.
And so I'm getting an about 78% return right now. But the reason it's so large is because I've thought about when I hire a technician, when I hire someone, it has to eat into that. So I don't have to go back to the client and say, hey, client,
Yep.
I have to raise my prices because I hired 3 people or whatever. The goal is to have that there. Now, in the future, if I end up hiring and growing, my price might go up, but I can't go back to the client and ask them to increase after they're already under contract. So yes, to answer your question, I know down to the penny of how much it costs per endpoint for me. But right now I'm getting there's a lot of return on that percentage wise, but there's a reason for it. It's driven in there. It's for future growth. That's the purpose. And it is industry standard. So if you're to I did look at the industry standard right in the middle. Razor Solutions is right in the middle in this area. So we're not obviously high, we're not super low, we're right there in the middle. So we're very competitive.
What's the top end of the industry? Just curious. Price per endpoint and revenue per endpoint.
Yeah, so it's about I don't know what the revenue is per
Okay.
endpoint, but I definitely know the high end is somewhere around 225 to 235 is the high end per endpoint.
Annually?
No, that's
What?
monthly.
Really?
Yeah, per endpoint,
Wow.
225 to $235 per endpoint
Okay.
on the high end.
Wow. Okay.
And the low
That's
end's about 125.
okay.
I've actually seen some other companies go down to 75 and 50, but I promise you,
Yeah.
they're not making any money. I promise you.
So when you say this is the numbers per endpoint, does that include, how does that include security, monitoring, maintenance? What else is included in that?
Yeah, so it's a full managed service. So we
Okay.
provide full white glove managed service when it comes to that, when you're paying that endpoint. And at EDR and XDR, we also protect your email and we put the antivirus and we also do DNS filtering, but we'll do vendor management, we'll do the whole thing. Where the additional cost comes in after all of that. So you get the whole cybersecurity suite protection, managed services, everything. Beyond that is so if you need backups,
Hmm.
back is an additional cost. If you want us to pay for your, which I do for a lot of clients, if you want us to go ahead and just handle your monthly cost on your all your emails and things like that, well, there's an additional cost to that for us to do that. Not a lot. We don't like make upmark too much.
Right.
I mean, upsell or mark it up too much, but just enough because we're kind of carrying that load. So there's that piece of it. If there is, if they want to do a password vault, we also offer, which I didn't mention earlier, we also offer security awareness training. So we actually set it up to where they actually can get fake phishing emails that we send
Yes.
out through our system a couple times a month, a few times a quarter,
Yep.
depends on the campaign. And they have an opportunity to get training if they, and they can learn, because that's the goal, is to teach and educate the staff. Because honestly, if I can educate a staff in a way where they can
Yeah.
recognize this, it's less work on us and a less stress
For
on
sure.
the incline. And so we offer those things as well. And so those are kind of some a la carte. There's different packages that fit within that. But that's really what it is for that endpoint, really 75% of what we offer, we manage all that. And then just anything extra that we do, like I said, the backups, if they want security awareness training, password vaults, and things like that, the stuff that is not built into that, because they may not want to. So the way that we offer it is we go through the discovery meeting, we listen to everything that they want, we ask questions, we let them ask us questions and just learn about their business and them personally, what their issues are, and then we build the package specifically to them. And then we also ask things like, well, because we run a technical scan too, we do a pen testing on it, a
Sure.
penetration test,
Yep. Yep.
and we get data that tells us, and we can crack passwords. I don't see the passwords, but I know that they're cracked because a lot of people are just saving them in, Chrome or Edge, or writing it down on putting it in a spreadsheet or whatever. We can find those very easy through those penetration tests. So we do, as we find that stuff, then we offer saying, well, this is what we found and this is what we recommend. But that wasn't something that we talked a lot about on the front end. So you kind of have to show them in black and white to say,
Right.
here's why we recommend, especially if they have to be compliance, right? We offer a big thing of compliance, whether you're HIPAA compliance, you have to be, oh my gosh, there's 13 compliances. I'm completely drawing a blank, but there's a lot of that stuff, and a lot of people know about the HIPAA, but there's client confidentiality, yes, PCIS, all that stuff has to be compliant, and those are also part of our services. But believe it or not, when we put our stuff on there, we're 10 times more than what the standard is that they're supposed to be. It's literally that in depth and that much stuff on there. But so that, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's really at the end of the day what the kind of services that we offer, how we do our endpoints.
No, for sure. That does. We are at our last question, and that is a fun one. So, if you had a magic wand to fix one thing in your business that's holding you back or slowing you down, what would it be?
I wish if I had a magic wand today, this is a very simple one because it's just a waiting game, but I hate to wait it. I wish I could use it to cancel some of the contracts of my tools that I already currently have so I could free up the extra capital and operating expense so I can actually go out there and grow the business in a way that I want by spending it on marketing, by spending it on hiring some people, and really grow it in a way and being smart about the next steps, because that's what I did. I went out and bought too many tools. I know it now, but I'm married to them for at least another year. And I'm not getting rid of all of them, but I'm getting rid of about 90% of them. Because what I've done is, what's really cool is I went and put open source tools together. So I actually have my own servers, and I have all these open source tools doing almost the exact same thing as these paid for tools. And so I'm shedding it off slowly and building them up and putting everything that I need to do, and so that when I can do it, I just be done with it. And what that does is, and then eventually, like I said, as I grow and expand, I'm not going to want to have to maintain those tools.
Right.
There's just a lot of work and a lot of overhead that's there, not from a cost perspective, from just a headache and making sure it's secure and everything's up to date and all that stuff perspective.
Yep.
If it breaks, you got to fix it, right? You can't call support.
Mm-hmm.
You are the
You are.
So I know that that's going to happen,
Yeah.
but until that time comes, it's just better for me to figure out a way to build the business, whatever that looks like. So that would be my magic wand, is I would completely do 180 opposite of that and just take care of it all myself.
Got it. Now, this has been a very informative session, and I think a lot of, just regular folks can learn a lot and start thinking about some of these best practices for password hygiene, or, do's and don'ts to keep your data secure. And, we'll definitely be sharing your business link in the description when this goes on YouTube. And yeah, any other closing comments, Jacob, for our listeners before we end the recording?
No, all I just say is just please everybody. It's going to be holiday season, and for security reasons, please, if you are unsure if you're using the same username password, please stop. It's going to get hard, especially with AI tools and things like that coming out. That were script kiddies are starting to become a little bit better at it, just because they have someone they can lean on how to do it. And some of them do it to be fun, which isn't fun, and some of them do it to be malicious,
Yep.
and that's definitely not fun. So just be safe out there.
No, that's a great way to end the podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Pleasure having you on the show and just, you know, educating some of our listeners that may need a little bit of help to avoid any untoward incidents during this long holiday season that we're about to get into. So thank you, Jacob. And yeah, this
Well,
is
I
the
appreciate you reaching out, and it means a lot. Thank you for considering me, and I do wish all the best. And I'm sure we're going to do some follow ups with this. If there's anything I can do for you or provide you with any details, I'm always available and ready. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you so much.